Welcome to the Uncommon Exposé, where it's my mission to connect, empower, and embolden all women through lived experience to erase shame, disconnect, and judgment. If you have an open mind, then I'd love for you to join me as I share these women's stories. Trigger warning: the following episodes discusses topics including molestation, rape, sexual assault, emotional abuse, court proceedings, drugs, and mental health, all related to children and adults. Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the podcast, The Uncommon Exposé. I am here to share, I think your story is, I genuinely have never met or known anyone who's had the experience that you've had. So I'm so grateful for you for being open and willing to share this part of your life with me. So I will get you to just introduce yourself, and then as we do with all the episodes, we're going to jump straight in. So let's go.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Tamika. I am 28. I have 3 young children. They range from 8 to 3 months old.
Yeah. The baby is here with us today.
He is.
So if you hear some chatting, you know that it's not Tamika.
Some patting.
Patting, yes.
So, yes, I guess I'll start with, I'm one of 5 children. I grew up in a small country town in Queensland. My parents separated when I was 9. Mm-hmm. And so there was my mum and myself, and then my 3 siblings. We moved down to Goodna. So we lived in Nanango, which is, I think it's about 4 and a bit hours from here.
Yeah.
And we moved down here one night. I remember I was at school and Mum came to school and said, do you know how Dad gets mad sometimes? Well, we've got to go. Oh. And I was a daddy's girl. I was like, oh, is Dad okay? Like, oh, what's going on? And so, yeah, we just ended up in Goodna with a man called Victor, who was on the fireys, the local, rural fireys, with my dad at the time. And
so when she said when your dad gets angry, does she mean violent?
Well, she never put anything more to it. All I remember her saying is, you know how Dad gets angry sometimes? My dad's a very old-fashioned farmer, and so he'd be very to the point. He would yell at us and stuff, but not violent that I remember.
Yeah, okay.
And there was no other reasoning on us just up and leaving except for that.
Yeah. So maybe he was violent to her, but not to you, or maybe violent in her head.
Maybe. And so, we came down to Goodna after school, and we stayed with one of Victor's friends. We ended up squatting on that house. So there was my mum, Victor. There was 2 people that lived with us in Nanango as well. They were adults with their daughter staying in this house as well.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't remember how long we were there for, but I remember one day the police coming and saying that you can't actually live here. And so they put us up in a motel. I think it's now Heather's Heaven in Goodna there. So we stayed there for a little bit, and then Victor got us a place in Rosewood somewhere, and then my mum had another boyfriend. So we sort of hopped around from when I was 9 to... We sort of settled around 10 and a half, closer to 11.
Was Victor your mum's boyfriend, or was he just a friend that she had who was helping you out?
Yeah.
Maybe a friend with benefits?
Yeah, look, I would say friend, but I do remember when we first came to Goodna that first ever night, my younger sister and I were watching Disney Junior or something or other, and I remember turning around and Mum was kissing Victor. Right. So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he was very helpful. He's an important key to remember in my story later on.
Okay, yeah.
And so, we sort of jumped around, and I went to, from year 1 right up until I graduated high school, I've been to nearly 16 different schools.
Wow.
And that is mainly in that space of 9 years old to about that 11-ish age. We were moving just constantly. My dad ended up hiring what's it called, private investigator,
Yeah, okay,
because he had no idea where we were.
Oh, shit.
We had literally just vanished. Anyway, so we ended up moving in with one of Victor's friends in Anango again.
Yeah.
She was a young mum with a daughter at the time, and she had a boyfriend. So we were staying there for a while, and then she said, look, like, you can't stay here anymore, which is fair enough. Like, there's this lady with 4 children.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
And so her boyfriend at the time said, look, I own my house. You can live with us. So her boyfriend was Victor's brother.
Okay.
So we ended up moving in with him. His name is Fluffy, and he is very important to my story. So when we first met Fluffy, we were on the balcony of this lady's house. I don't remember her name. And he was having a cigarette, and then he took us to see his house, I think like that night or something, and I hated him. I did not like him. He'd done nothing to me at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
I just did not like him. And
is that a feeling that you would normally get towards people? Do you remember?
No, but as an adult and a mother now, I think that it's important to acknowledge if a child doesn't like an adult.
Okay.
It's I think intuition maybe.
Yeah, they say dogs and children know when someone's not good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up moving in with Fluffy, and my mum was sleeping in his bed the first night that we moved in with him. Yet again, don't know if they were dating at that time or not, but I remember feeling that, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so we were there, and then we sort of, it was all good for a while, and then Mum and Fluffy sort of started fighting, and we ended up moving to Maidenwell. Then that is when he started to molest me. We moved out of his home up into Maidenwell, and Mum and him were still dating. And there was one night Mum and I were just, I was a preteen. We were butting heads a fair bit. And Fluffy said, oh, do you want me to take the girls? Give you a break. Mum's like, yeah, cool, thanks. Yeah. So he did. So we were sleeping in his bed with him that night.
Sorry, we just cut a little bit out. Your sister who's 11 months younger than you are.
Okay. Yeah. And so I woke up in the middle of the night, and his hand was on my right breast.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to him, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he said, you told me to. Now, my age that I always get confused with how old I was, but I would have been around that 10, 11 mark.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So, so I then grabbed my sister and we slept sort of outside his room in the like lounge room living area for the night. And then the next morning he was taking us to school, and we woke up and he didn't say anything, I didn't say anything. So
You're 10 though.
I was
about even if a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old did say to him, please do that, you're an adult,
right?
You say no, and you say no, that's inappropriate.
Yeah,
you correct. Well, in my opinion, you correct that behaviour as the adult.
Yeah,
I don't think that you would have done that.
No, well, and because you're in, like, as a child, you're like, when an adult is doing this to you, they're the adult.
That's exactly
right.
They
know right and wrong.
That's right.
Yeah, so we then moved back in with him. I think too, like, when you, as an adult, like, they're the ones that you trust their instincts, so to speak. So, we'd moved back in now. So we've moved back in from Maidenwell into his house. And nothing sort of happened for a few months, I'd want to say. And then my mum and younger sister went into town, which is about a 30-minute drive. Mm-hmm. And I was in my room. I came out of my room and he was on the couch watching porn. So I'm still about that year. I'm about 11 years old-ish, about now. And I remember seeing it and I was like, oh, like, sorry. And I went to turn back to go back in my room, and he said, no, like, come out here and watch it. And I was like, no, like, it's okay, like, it's fine. And he's like, no, come out here and watch it. Sort of like in that more deeper authority sort of voice. Yeah. And so I did. I came out and I sat down, and I was just not watching the TV. I was looking everywhere else as possible. And then from there, he said, I'll come sit on my lap. And I was like, no, like, it's okay. He's like, come and sit on my lap. And so I did, and I could feel his penis start to get hard under his jeans, and he was sort of just like thrusting with me on his lap. And then I think Mum came, we could hear her coming up the driveway, and yeah, that was it. That was I was able to get up and go into my room. I don't really remember that I guess grooming sort of thing that they talk about pedophiles doing, which I think is really important to label him as a pedophile. Yeah. He's, that's what he is. They groom, and so that sort of lasted a while, and it was just fondling and oral for a good 12 months. So
sorry, when you say oral, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Of course. So it would be, he would make me give him oral, and then occasionally he would give me oral, but I don't remember that happening a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And so every night without fail, he would smoke a 20 pack of cigarettes. So every night he would have to go into town to get another packet of cigarettes. Now, my mum and I didn't have the best relationship.
Yeah.
And so she would say, oh, you can go into town with Fluffy. And look, I also wasn't going to school, so I was stuck at home all day with Mum fighting. It was a way to get away from that. I knew what I was going away to, but pick your poison,
Yeah.
And so it was like that for a good 12 months. And then I remember the first time he penetration raped me. It was 3 days before my 13th birthday. And I remember that because after he'd had sex with me for the first time, I started my period. So it just, I remember that 3 days before my 13th birthday. And so that sort of fondling and that went on for a good 11, a good month, like a few months, let's say. Yeah. And then, so I was 12, turning 13. I was in year 7. He said that we had to go to Kingaroy, which is a little bit more than 30 minutes. It's the town over from Nanango, bigger town. Yeah. I can't remember what it was, but it was, us going to Kingaroy was just an excuse for him to have sex with me. And so it was, I remember we were in the back of his car, and he told me to just take one leg out of my pants. I must have been wearing either jeans or shorts, something. And he said, I'll just take one leg out because then it's easier to put back on. Like, you don't have to take all your pants off. And so, then sex became, him having sex with me was almost a nightly occurrence from then. And we didn't exit that situation until I was almost 14. So that's a good 12 months of penetration rape. He'd showed me a video once of my mum and him having sex. So he'd obviously recorded it on one of those old sort of cameras, like video recording cameras. And then just disgusting things. Like it was really horrible things. And
my heart breaks for you.
Yeah, look, looking back now as an adult and a mother, I am grateful that it happened. I believe in a higher power, and I think whether I believed in that or not would have gotten me this far, but I truly believe I was meant to go through what I went through. Had maybe my younger sister gone through that, she would have...
Was it just you then? He didn't do it to any of your
siblings?
Tried.
He tried on my younger sister. And I believe his go-to is the touching of breasts while you're sleeping, because she'd woken up and said, "Oh, Fluffy had I had a dream that Fluffy had touched my breast," and so Mum and my older brother put it to him, and "Oh no, I didn't do that." So I guess that was his sort of tester, and then had you said something, okay, I know not to do it again. I don't know, but perhaps. I did tell, so I had a really good friend when I was in year 7, and I told her that he was having sex with me. So her mum was friends with Fluffy as well, and her mum had told Fluffy, "Oh, Tamika had said this," and so he said to me, like, "You need to go and tell her that you're lying." Like, he was very upset, and I understood that, okay, this could get him in trouble.
Yeah.
And so, I told my friend, "Oh, I'm lying." Well, fast forward, once Docs had been involved and all the rest of this, she actually came to me when I was 16, 17 and asked if I was telling the truth, because he had done something similar to her. So in year 8, my younger sister and I had 80 something days off, I think.
Wow.
It was term 3, something so severe, and so with us not going to school has contacted Docs, and then they've gotten involved. We also had 13 tips that Fluffy was a pedophile or something along that lines. And so Docs came to school and sort of asked, had he ever done anything, and I was like, no, definitely not, because my entire this entire 4 years, it's you can't tell anyone, do not tell anyone.
You're so formative at 10. You just trust parents to be doing the right thing, because that's what you do. So if he's telling you not to say something, you just blindly trust that. Children would.
Of course. And for some messed up reason, I sort of started to think it was love. My mum and I had not, we didn't have a good relationship whatsoever. And so my dad and I didn't see each other very often, maybe once a month, if that, for a weekend. So now I've got this other parent role giving me affection that isn't healthy, but I don't know any different. It's messed up, but...
And was he saying nice things as well as physical acts?
Yeah, definitely.
Like telling you that you were beautiful and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. He would, his things were gifts. He'd be gift giving. So I remember one Christmas, he got my younger sister and I a laptop each, but my laptop was bigger and I could play CDs and DVDs, where she just had a smaller laptop. So it was, and he got me the Hannah Montana movie. So that shows where my mentality sort of age was as well. So my friend had called me once Docs had come in. They said that Mum picked us up from school, and my sister and I told her what had happened, and by the time we got back to our gate, the lady was there who interviewed us, and she said...
So gate, of your house?
No, sorry, the gate of our house. And she said, you can't take them any further. You were to go up there, pack a bag, and you are to leave tonight. We've got emergency accommodation for you already set up if you wish to take that. But, you can't take the girls any further. You can pick them up from our office in Kingaroy, whenever you can tonight. Otherwise, then they'll go into emergency care. Mum did. She came to pick us up. Then we went down to... We stayed in a motel. Then we went and stayed at a women's refuge in the Gold Coast hinterland. Not for very long. Then we moved in with my dad. So I was about that sort of 14 age. We moved in with my dad, and Dad raised us from there on. And so it was, about 2-3 years after living with Dad, my friend had called me and asked if it was true. And I remember thinking, like, shit, this is a trap. I'm on speaker and he's on the other end. Like, this is, and I was like, no, it's not. And she said, look, like, my lawyers, police, whoever it may have been at the time, had said to her, if you've got more evidence, maybe if like there was more people, what he's done to you isn't quite enough. If you've told anyone, or like you could get more evidence, I guess it could help the case. So I guess that's what she was trying to do, is get more evidence. And so I didn't tell anyone. I told my auntie briefly about it, and my cousin, but I didn't speak of it from when we moved in with my dad up until I was about 18. I then met my 2 older children's dad when I was about 17, moved in with him when I was 18, and his older sister was folding washing one afternoon and was telling me about what sort of happened to her. Very similar story. Quite literally, I word vomited, me too. And she was like, oh, like, what's your story? What happened? And I just, like, out with it. So then she told her mum, which I get, like, this is heavy. I totally understand if you have to tell somebody. She told her mum, and I remember her mum and I were at indoor cricket that night, and she said, have you ever thought about going to the police? And I said, oh no, definitely not. Like, I'm fine now, sex, I can have sex, it doesn't affect me, I don't have nightmares, like, I'm good. And she said, that's good and well, I'm glad you're good, but who's to say when you're 40, 50, he's dead, you've got a business, married, have children, you've got your life all set up, that these memories don't haunt you and come back then? Who's to say that he's not doing it to other children? That other children is what got me, because I remember when I was 16, we went to a pumpkin festival, which is in a local town near where we're from. I went with my dad, my stepmom at the time, step siblings, and my younger sister. And I remember walking on the road past him. So this is 2 years after we'd sort of gone. We've exited his house, right? Have not spoken to him, nothing. My dad and I and step siblings were walking past him this way. He was walking across the road the other way, holding hands with a young girl that looked about 10. And so when my mother-in-law had said, what if he's doing it to other children? I remember seeing her face and thought, God, like, what if? And so that week we went to the police and I'd done my statement, and I remember every day I used to say, it never happened. Like, it was like clockwork. Every day I'd say, it never happened, hoping that I would forget that it didn't happen.
Just trying to repress it. Convince yourself.
And
up or something.
And so when I went to the police and started doing my statement, it all just came back, and to the colour of undies I was wearing and how old I was, like, my memory was just, it all came back. And then so I'd done my statement for a good probably 2-3 hours. I was in the police office for. And then my arresting officer said, look, for another bit of evidence, we could call him. The catch is I can't get his number. You have to source his number. We will call him at the station, and it will all be recorded. But my arresting officer couldn't be in the room with me either. Nothing could be coached. He couldn't tell me what I could say. Nothing. So anyway,
So they were, in doing that, were they trying to get him to confess to you? And you had to get it out of him however you could?
But my arresting officer also couldn't say that could you get him to confess either. So I got his number from the young girl that had called me a few years prior, and thankfully he had never changed his number. So I called him, and I just tried to be so cool, and I said, oh, hey Fluffy, it's Tamika. I just want to talk to you about what you done to me when I was younger. Something along those lines. And he's like, oh, like, I've been waiting for you to call me to give you money. And he's like, come on, like, don't do this to me. You know, that other bitch is suing me, meaning my friend who had called me a few years later.
Yeah.
So she, because she didn't have enough evidence to charge him, I guess she was advised to sue him.
Okay.
And I just kept saying, like, oh, look, I just wanted to give you the heads up that I'm going to go to the police about what you done to me when I was younger. Had I been a little bit older, I would have said, you don't think having sex with a 13-year-old is wrong?
Yeah.
But, like, I haven't spoken to this man since for a good four years, you know, so...
And it all seems to be moving quite quickly.
Yeah.
And lots of things are coming up at one time that I would assume you don't have a lot of mental clarity to be directing a conversation.
Yeah, and I wasn't, like, I didn't know what to say or anything. Anyway, so I walk out and I'm like, thumbs up to my arresting officer who was like,
it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
Anyway, he ended up hanging up on me and whatnot, which is fine. That's fine. And so, yeah, my arresting officer listened to it and he's like, yeah, that's good. Like, that's good. Thankfully, that was allowed to be used in court.
Yeah.
And so court took... I was 18. It didn't go through until I was 21, like a week before my 21st birthday. So I'd gotten married, and then court was sort of then, and then it was my birthday, sort of all within a month of each other.
And go.
So yeah, so I had court, my wedding, and then my 21st birthday, all within like 3 weeks of each other. And court had taken from when I was 18 to 21.
Yeah.
He'd pleaded guilty at one point and then sacked that legal team. So they're gone. He's not guilty anymore. We start back off. And then...
do you remember what he was being charged with?
Nah, I don't. He ended up getting... Spoiler alert. He ended up getting 50 years.
Yeah,
not
enough.
With 8 years that he has to serve. So he can get out next April. Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep.
That's just...
It doesn't make sense at all.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Doesn't mean to say he will get out next year, but he can apply to get out next year.
So he pleaded guilty, fired that legal team, hired someone new.
Yep. And then we finally got to court. One of my witnesses had died. So we're at court now. Like, it's this big build up to... We had to go up to Maroochydore.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was in Nanango and that was like the whatever court. So we've like driven up there and it's like this big, suspense to this. Yeah. To then DPP's like, you actually can't. I don't know if it was DPP or his lawyer that said, well, no, she's dead. So, yeah.
How had she died? Natural causes, do you know?
Yeah, so it was actually my friend who... The one who
called you?
Yep, yeah. So her mum. Because I told her mum... Well, I told her who then told her mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was her mum who had died. And then, thankfully we finally got through it all. But I would not recommend it to anyone.
Going to court?
Nah.
Even though I'm sure that your statements and things impacted his
definitely
ruling.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it again?
Had I known that my outcome would be the outcome it would be, I probably would do it again.
Yeah.
The amount of women that I know that go to court and go through all of this and they don't win.
Oh.
Like, and it's that.
Because it would be like he said, she said.
It is he said, she said. Exactly. And had I not, I guess, told so many people along the way or had that phone call, the outcome could have been totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Right.
And even just like, and where is the justice? Like, he got charged 50 years but only has to serve 8.
Yeah. What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Just give him 8, which is not not enough.
Yeah.
At all. But I don't know how the legal system works.
Yeah. It just
either.
Yeah. And then when you think, like, the thing, I've done a lot of research around pedophiles, and I believe that there are two kinds. One that is an optimistic, so i.e. they've never been sexually attracted to children until they date a woman and she has young children, they're left alone, there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Then there's the other one who is sexually attracted to children, as you and I are sexually attracted to males or you know,
females.
Yep. Like, I believe that he perhaps
it's
is
like a biologically driven desire.
Yep. And
or chemically driven, I guess, maybe.
I would like for there to be more studies to do within pedophiles. Like, is this more of a chemically imbalanced sort of something or other?
Yeah.
Is it, you know, like, is he generally sexually attracted to children? If that's the case, well, then let's get not just him, because there's heaps of them, you know. I don't know. Let's get them far away. If it was more acceptable, maybe, for them to get help and say, hey, I've had these sort of thoughts. I don't know, like, it's very touchy topic.
Yes.
Like,
I understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
To be able to come to before action.
Yes.
Before action, when it's still an intrusive thought, being able to seek assistance to prevent any action taking place.
Yeah.
If there is something like a tablet or...
who knows? Who knows? You know,
it's like, a really... It's an empathetic, sympathetic point of view for you to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like, to be trying to consider someone who's done something horrific and multiple people who do these horrific things, you're still sitting there thinking, like, what if there was a way to stop this but help them at the same time?
Yeah.
Rather than...
I like how you're making me sound right now, but I don't know if it's so much I want to help them. I think that...
help would be prevention?
Like, we could help so many more young people, young children, rather than, they all deserve to be hung. Well, that's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah,
like,
true.
it's
unrealistic.
That's not going to happen. I don't know how that would work. Unless, like, at bare minimum, we should have a sex registry thing like what the states do, where you can see how many... I guess that's sort of... there's pros and cons to it all with that.
They should be let out. Once you're charged, it's the end for you.
But see, so even that they shouldn't be let out comes down to once you're charged. So once you've offended, once you've already done the damage,
that's true.
If we can put them somewhere before they do the damage, well, we're here trying to save world.
Let's chat about global warming as well.
It's such a long battle then, like, to then, like, it doesn't end. Like, I remember the court stuff. I was totally... I thought that I saw him everywhere. I truly thought he was following me and he wants to get to me because I'm getting to him, I guess. I was...
like, put a hit on you.
Like,
kind of thing. I can't speak from experience.
My mind was just crazy then, and then...
I can absolutely imagine how and why you would be like that. I would be as well. And so, you know, I'm working with my therapist now about possibly next year him getting released and that sort of thing. But it's the mental hurt of it. It doesn't end. And then having children, although I'm a better mother for what has happened to me, we're very body aware and we don't keep secrets. Like, we're a very open little family. However, my kids have never had a sleepover. And I don't want them to have a sleepover. I don't think you're alone.
No,
in that though. There are lots of mothers who have not experienced but heard of experiences like yours that will not let their children have sleepovers.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love having kids at my house. We can have as many kids as we want. There's always kids at our house. That's fine.
And you would happily have someone sleep over at your house?
Yeah. I guess because I know they're safe.
Yeah.
And then I know my kids are safe.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's.
Did you find that, like, that person's mother had said that it did impact you later, like with being in a relationship? And I know that we just spoke about parenting, but like, did things come up for you at any point?
Definitely, yeah. When I said to her, I'm fine with sex. No, I cannot do missionary. I can't. Like, it's I don't like it.
Triggering.
Yeah. And
what about like just physical affection?
I mean, definitely, yeah. I once dated a man who was quite skinny, and Fluffy was quite skinny.
Yeah.
And so I've normally only dated people of a bigger build, like wider shoulders, musclier, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not realising until later on I dated this skinny stick that, oh wow, like just the feel of him and him hugging me was constantly triggering me. Facial hair. Fluffy had like a, what is it, like a
goatee?
Yeah, is that where, it goes,
or
down
like
past your
handlebar
lips.
moustache?
Handlebar, yeah. I don't like facial hair. Unless it's full-blown beard grown out, I don't like that prickly feeling. Yeah. Not for me.
Yeah.
And look, maybe later on there'll be more triggers that I find, but it's
like part of you, isn't it? I mean, like, it is.
Yeah, it is. I think too, like, not forgetting that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And yet again, that higher power, there was a reason why that happened, and then I got the justice, not only for me, but for my friend who he'd touched after me. When we first moved to Nanango with my mum and dad when I was 6, the rumour of the town, now being a little town, there's lots of rumours. The rumour was Fluffy and his dad were going to court for touching his stepdaughters, who were twins. So that was a rumour. I don't know if it was true or not, but I would like to think if it was true, one has since committed suicide. But that little bit of justice was then served to them or her.
And what about Fluffy's brother?
Yeah.
Whose name I can't remember now.
Victor.
Yes. Did he have any idea that anything was...
Yeah, look, once Mum and Fluffy got together... Yeah, I don't actually remember seeing him.
Yeah, okay.
Too much, like he wasn't really around or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the end of it.
Oh my God. Thank you for sharing your story. I've just paused it a couple of times. But yeah, you've spoken so well and just shared your story so clearly. I'm gonna have to stand. So thank you so much. But I would just, what would your piece of advice be to either yourself going through it all again, or maybe to someone who's in a similar situation or knows someone who's in a similar situation, something like that? What would you say to them?
I would say to myself, younger me, it's going to be okay. Like, it's all going to be great.
Yeah.
And then to somebody else, tell your story.
Yeah.
Tell it. I know previously I said I personally wouldn't go through court again.
Yeah.
So I don't mean necessarily tell an officer, but it's your story.
Yeah.
Don't let what happened to you, don't be ashamed of what happened to you.
Yeah.
You know, like, share it and tell as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It gets easier the more times you tell it.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, it's something to not be ashamed about.
Absolutely.
Like, it's whether it was just rape, you know, you were out, or whether you were preyed upon, it's, you are not in fault. I don't care if you were wearing just a bikini.
Yeah.
You are not the one that done the damage. Share your story.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Well, I've told you this before. This is the first time that I've heard your story from start to finish. You gave me a little bit of, like, this is my story and I would like to share it, but I had no idea that it was so intense. And but you're such a beautiful human and such a good mum, and you're so funny and you're so witty, and I just think that you've just come out of this whole dynamic and situation in such a beautiful place.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So I'm so grateful to you for coming on and sharing this experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries.